Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Haranek. I'm a retired guy that, after retired, started writing books. I want to talk to you today about one of the books that I've written. I'm retired from 40 years of bringing out, as an executive, 40 years of bringing out products to market, high-tech products to market. I'm well educated with a double E and an MBA and a PhD in economics from the Wharton School. So I'm qualified to give the talk on this. Uh, and the name of the book that I'm going to be talking about is a new book for me, is Are You Liberal, Libertarian, Conservative, or Confused? Uh, don't be surprised if you're confused. I was, because I didn't know until I started writing it and getting some parameters in place. I was confused because you never see definitions like this. Uh, and on top of that, I found that since I'd read so much about the founding fathers, I was confused about the meanings of the words, and I'll discuss that here shortly. They've changed over the years. On top of that, the press misuses the terms that suit their particular means at the time. They call everybody that they don't like a fascist. Okay, everybody they do like is a liberal. And they aren't necessarily the case. Okay. The objective of my book was to uh, allow the reader to place himself on some sort of linear scale in order to understand where he fits. Okay, and to accomplish this, I created a scale. Imagine a scale, a yardstick in front of you, from the left to right. Um, I defined the terms liberal, libertarian, conservative, and placed them on the scale. And I created a questionnaire I put in Appendix A of the book, which if you take the questionnaire, you can find out where you sit on this scale. Okay. Um, I was surprised myself because when I thought I was a conservative, and I found out that I was actually a libertarian because there's many social things that I like. I think of. Okay. First off, remember this yardstick in front of you is linear. But some definitions have changed. Um, for instance, in the 18th century, a liberal, and I'm talking about Jefferson and Washington and John Adams and Patrick Henry, they were considered themselves liberal, but that is a 21st century libertarian. And the 20th century socialist, which is Karl Marx in the 1860s when he wrote Das Kapital, is now the 21st century progressive Democrat. Think of Sanders. Okay, on the scale in front of you, the yardstick in front of you, on the left is liberal, and it's far left is liberal. On the far right is conservative. The liberal, what he stands for, is social freedom, the freedom to do anything you want socially, but economic constraint. They feel like they can put economic constraints on individuals on their own private property. And the conservative, on the other hand, thinks of social constraint, but has economic freedom. In the liberal, for instance, will feel that if you're a male and you want to marry another male, so be it. The conservative would think, no, that's against the Bible, against God's law, so you should not do that. The economic constraint that the liberal likes to put on the people is that, well, if you're a farmer and you have this big pond and you want to expand it, they're going to say, well, how is that going to affect the environment? And the farmer shrugs his shoulder, the libertarian shrugs his shoulder, and the conservative says, who cares? This is my property, on my property, and I want to do with it whatever I want. Okay, and that's a matter of philosophy, and that's what's affected in this world. Let's look at that scale and ask, okay, where does it, if the liberal is on the left and the conservative is on the right, where's libertarian fell? it fits right smack in the center of the yardstick, okay? Because they believe in social freedom and economic freedom. They believe that there should be a minimal amount of state control over an individual's life. They believe in, yes, you should have military and police because that's necessary for any society. But other than that, stay out of my hair. That's what they're really thinking in terms of. Let me live my life the way I want to, and I don't need government to tell me and government regulations to tell me how to live it. Okay. Uh, let's look for a moment at communism and fascism. Communism is the far end point on the the, the socialist liberal scale. It's the end point of the yardstick on the liberal scale. It believes in centralized government control. State authority overrides God's law. And social constraint is there and economic constraint is there. You only do what the communist government allows you to do. There is no such thing as private property. You don't own your car, you don't own your house. You take whatever job they give you, okay? Fascism, on the other side, is a far right, which is far on the conservative side of the scale, and it's the far end point there. Fascism believes in centralized government. Basically, it believes in the state authority overrides God's authority. But they believe really in economic constraint and social constraint. You can only do what the government tells you to do. But the people in power, the legislatures in power and the people running the country, they'll do anything. This is what's most characteristic of fascism. They'll do anything or say anything to get and retain that power. To them, this is a power trip. And if they have to use force to enforce their ideas on you with the gun, they will do so. They just want you to do. They want to control you. Okay, that's the key to remember about a fascist. Okay. New World Order has been talked about in the press for the last 20 or 30 years. And this is what if you look at the New World Order and see what they really like, they like certain things that are both fascist and communist. And if you put them all together, you'll look at the New World Order wants a few individuals at the top to run the government, control the government. They're willing to spend money. Imagine as big bankers being to spend the money to get the legislature to get laws in place to keep them in power, to make them more money. The communist side of the equation, the fascists need, the New World Order requires fascist control of government. In other words, big money operations control the legislatures, who then control the government and control the laws. But they need to control the people, so they use communism for that. The state is still the ultimate source of all power, and God and the Ten Commandments are removed from society, and you have a socialized government. Lenin said it best. He says, the end game for socialism is communism. And the only difference between socialism and communism, in my mind, is the removal of God from society. And that's what communism is. So I think what we just did is cover a linear scale with liberal on the left, conservative on the right, libertarians in the center. We discussed socialist, which is a social constraint, and economic constraint, which is leaning towards the left, which is liberal, and communism and fascism, and New World Order. So I think what would be good and wise for you to do at this point is, when you get the book, take the test at the end in Appendix A and see where you fit before reading the book. And after you read the book, take the test again and see where you fit, because you might change your views. The thing to remember is that what I think you have is a linear yardstick there, but let's assume it were flexible. Let's assume for a moment that you could take that yardstick and put the ends together so that you have communism and fascism touching. Okay, this is the way I think is a better scale, because in the center of that, yeah, and let's assume that that's right in front of you. You have communism and fascism touching, and they're state centralist controlled, and then you have liberalism at the opposite end of the circle, and libertarianism, and that is where you have virtually no government control, and the individual is in power to live his own life with social freedom and economic freedom. So when you think about it that way, it becomes a nice scale for you to uh, direct your attention to and find out where you fit on it. Are you closer to libertarian, or are you closer to centralized government? Obviously, the press and the politicians and stuff are pushing towards centralized government. It's almost been a constant push for the last 50, 60 years, actually 100 years. And you, the individual, get caught in the middle because all they want to do is control you. Okay, with that, I'm going to end this and let you know that go to my website, www.raven, that's the bird, Raven, R-A-V-E-N, Geopol News, Geopol news.com. And you'll see there's 5 or 6 other books there, plus a weekly news journal that I put out. Okay, I put a new article out a week. So there's a couple hundred articles in that index. If you ever bought this service, you have the entire library. Okay. All right. With that, I thank you, and thank you. It's been nice chatting with you. And with that, I'm signing off. Thank you.